Well, hello and welcome to our Subconscious Speaks. I'm Don Robert
Tina Orlando.
in Orlando. Together,
Mhm.
we're Tina Orlando and Don. Just our little joke there. Just in case you forgot, we're both award-winning clinical hypnotherapists and honors graduates from the Hypnosis Motivation Institute here in Tarzana, California. And our channel is all about talking about the conscious and the subconscious and everything in between. We invite you to come and hang out. We're going to drop new episodes weekly. We would encourage you to remember to like, follow, subscribe, and feel free to share this message with anyone that you think might benefit from it, because that's really our goal here, is to be of service and to help people. And if you have any suggestions or requests, additional topics are welcome in our comments section. Today's topic is, how does hypnosis work? And so my dear friend Tina is going to start us off, and we're going to kind of get into this in and out of this idea of like, how does this work? Tina, how does hypnosis work?
Well, I mean, I think we kind of started this conversation last week. How does it work? Where does it happen? Like, how does it feel? Um, is it safe? Is it? What do you think? Do you think it's safe? I think it's safe. I think
I
it's
I
highly
know it's
safe.
safe. I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I
There you
I
go.
I think
You got
between the two of us, thousands of hours
mhm,
with clients and sessions. I mean, if you think
mhm.
about, we should probably do the math on that. It's a lot. It's a
It's a
lot.
lot.
Yeah.
It's a
I mean,
lot
it's
of
four and a
hours.
half years
Mhm.
and
Yes.
it's a lot. So not once have I had anyone come back to me and say, "Oh my God, that was so scary. I was so relaxed. Just came out of my skin," because I don't get that relaxed very often. Never,
I
not a
yeah,
once.
it's what we always hear, though. I mean, at least I do, that they don't ever feel anything like that except in that wonderful state of hypnosis.
Hmm. All right, I'm going to
That's
put you on
when
the spot. Doesn't feel like that. For our listeners, please describe what that
th-
is.
that
Yeah,
um
that's the special
I
sauce
would
right there.
say I would say in the easiest way, it's complete relaxation, highly focused, um, stress free is a
Mm.
really great way, because stress is the thing that we carry around with us, and we've always feel something. Shoulders are up, arms are tight, hands are clenched, jaw is tight. None of those things are present in hypnosis. So I definitely, it's like stress free. It's completely stress free. um, and that's really what everybody wants to be, because when you are stressed, you are causing your body dis-ease. It's a big one. What do you think, Don?
I, stress free. That's a big one. One of the things that I like to do is I like to give people permission to just take this time for them, because
Absolutely.
to your point, right, shoulders are up, clenching, we do these long progressive relaxations with our clients so that they can get into that relaxed state where they let go of the thoughts, they let go of the
Mhm.
obsessive kind of cycle loop that people get stuck in. um,
Mhm.
and so being able to get into that state, and I say, just how about for the next 20 minutes or so, just be lazy as you want
Mhm.
to be. And all I
Right.
ask them to do is listen quietly to the sound of my voice
Right.
and
It'll
be
just lead to where
open.
you need to go.
And
Mhm.
because, flash reverse, like, because we know there's suggestibility, we know the way that they learn, right? Because remember, suggestibility is how we learn. And so knowing how someone learns, you teach in that style.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
is the key. It
Yeah.
is the key. It's part of the theory that we both kind of work out of, which I'm sure we're going to touch on in a future episode. Kind of, we're going to talk about that wonderful theory that um, really allows us to communicate effectively in relationships, in any style relationship, business, personal. Um, so, who do you think really benefits the most from hypnotherapy? Who needs it? Who really, really needs it?
Geez, there is such a long list of the benefits of hypnotherapy and hypnosis for people with, anything from bruxism, which is the grinding of the teeth, to I see more and more people today, and really it's a ducktail off of what happened for me in COVID. I think for both of us, is everyone was stressed and anxious. And so I hear
Mm,
a lot of people that have anxiety. So that's a big buzzword. Anxiety, panic attacks is another buzzword, right? Because that's when
mm-hmm.
you're just overwhelmed and it's happening every day. It's not just like a spare of the moment thing. So allowing people to get to a place where they can self-care, that's my that's who I love to help because
Mm,
I've been that person. I still get anxious.
right. Well, so it's more than just, oh, hypnosis helps with smoking or sleep or weight loss. It's really um about stress, about anxiety, about, I mean, there's also, extreme medical components for hypnosis to be used in. However, everyday people that have just anxiety and stress, they benefit
Mm,
from it also.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, And who there I had another thought when you were talking about like who it's someone that's ready for change.
Mm,
Someone who's maybe a little sick and tired of being sick and tired that
mm, mm,
knows, right? Maybe they heard or they watched a Tony Robbins clip or they saw some sort of law of attraction thing and they're like, why don't I have that? And so getting into the nuts and bolts of those kind of blockades that we all have, right?
mm,
Most
mm.
people, maybe Rob Dydick from what's that show? He's a
Robin
big
Big?
yeah no, but
Yeah.
his big one now is oh geez, we shouldn't probably
Did
mention
I
it.
just date myself? I did. Just a
Yeah,
little
but
bit.
he's a big law of attraction guy, and he
Yeah.
manifested his ridiculousness, right? Like
Oh,
he's
okay. Yes.
manifested this
Yes.
amazing life, and if you follow him on Instagram, there you go, there's your plug,
Mm,
Rob. The dude, that's
right.
all he talks about, right?
It's true though.
But so he's called forward and lives in that state of receiving for that which he
Hmm.
believes is already his. I don't know how we got ducktailed off to a law
Right.
of
But now we're
attraction
talking about
class,
law of
but
attraction. I mean, we'll go back at some
yeah,
other point
hang
and
on, let
we'll
me
get
add
to
that
law of
to the
attraction.
list. We can
Please
get
add
Joe
it.
to talk about that.
Law of attraction, manifestation. We'll get to it, we promise. But
Yeah,
before we do that, we need to build some kind of foundation so that
who
everybody
needs it?
can know what,
That's where
yeah,
we
who
were.
needs it? Who needs it first? Who, not what, who, because we all
Yeah,
know we all need something, right? So we need these people, we all need it. Every single person, whether, you're a farmer in middle America or you're, you know, I don't know, just your everyday person, your CEO, doesn't matter. Everyone needs it. Think of it as the best, 30 minutes of your life, at
the
least for your
athlete
day.
that wants a better outcome of their performance. It's really all about what you believe, right? And so if
You
you're
know,
kind of stuck in some sort of loop, hypnotherapy can help with that reframing of that loop, the halting
I,
of it, and creating a
yeah,
different positive one.
I'm chomping at the bit here just because it reminded me of the when we were talking about the Olympics. I forgot to actually mention that boxers use hypnotherapy. Very famous boxers use hypnotherapy to play out the um, choreography of their fights. Um, and when I say famous, I mean like some of the best boxers of all time have used hypnotherapy. Very, and I believe it was Dr. Kappas's one of his passions was boxing. I don't know if you know that, but
I don't have that up here for
I
some reason.
don't know why. You know me. It just
I
sticks. Things
do.
stick. I don't
Yes.
know why.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
random
Yeah.
trivia.
Yeah.
I'm your girl if you want trivia. But so yes, I meant to mention it then. So now I'm going to tell you now that that is somebody, those boxers, they use hypnosis quite a bit. So that's who and
I
how.
made a recent new hypno friend, this gentleman Kevin, and he just posted that he's working with a boxer. So I'm just super interesting the synchronicity of this topic. So there you go, Kevin. A little shout out
Well,
for you, sir. It's doing good work.
absolutely. I mean, synchronicities, we all have them, right? We all follow, our gut. We all have that intuitive voice. That all is part of who we are as just people because we're connected. And I think that's something else that hypnosis kind of facilitates is
Mm,
a connection with oneself. So I think that if you're looking for that, you could really benefit from hypnosis. What the question really is, do you think that there's somebody that can't be hypnotized?
absolutely not. It's
No,
not my experience.
me neither.
Yeah.
I think everybody's hypnotized at least once every other hour, even if it's just for a few minutes.
What? Hold on.
Yeah,
I thought you were inferring like that somebody couldn't be hypnotized in a session. You're telling me now that I'm sorry, tongue in cheek. Sorry. Uh, you're telling me that we're in hypnosis on our own?
absolutely. You didn't know that?
Tell me more about this topic.
You're hilarious. When you're driving,
My tongue was in
we
my
are,
cheek.
I know. So, when we're driving, if you're in a high traffic area, right, especially, or you're in a long road, you're in that zone, you're hitting that state, especially, when you've worked all day, you have all that overload going on, the stress, the anxiety of life, all of that. And then you get in your car and you're driving home and you get home, but you don't really remember how you got home. And you look around and you go, did I stop at that red light? Well, of course you did. You're here. However, you were in hypnosis that whole time. So I know Don, that there are other times
Yes,
that we're in hypnosis.
I was baiting you into
I know
the
you were.
topic, just
Of
because
course you were.
we claim to have a
This is what
little
we
bit
do.
of fun and share a laugh. This is us. This is what we've been
Yeah.
doing for 4.5 years, like
Yeah.
uh,
No way.
talking for hours upon hours and just laughing. Um, but I wanna add to what you just talked about with the whole driving thing. I mean, if you layered on some music on top of that, forget about it. You're
Absolutely.
driving home in a glazed over experience, especially if you're listening to Prince. You're just
There it
totally
is. It's
engulfed.
true.
Little Prince
It's true.
plug for my Prince girl.
Yeah,
But no,
absolutely.
all kidding
Absolutely.
aside, like who hasn't missed an exit on the freeway because you're just zoned out? And
Yeah.
we're not talking about you're driving like, see, that's the problem, right? Last week I did this,
Yeah.
right? When people
Yeah.
have that first reaction to, oh, hypnosis, you're gonna make me quack like a duck or blah blah, whatever, right?
Right.
That uneducated kind of Hollywood or stage version of what we think we know it is, right? It's just
Right.
not that, but
No.
you're fully aware of your surroundings, right? We say this to our clients that
All the
the
time.
experience is that you're gonna completely. I've had people get up in the middle of a session and answer their front door and come right back and
Yeah.
go back into state, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
so you're not a zombie with like gripped hands on the wheel while you're just kind of zoned out. You're just kind of
No.
daydreaming while you're actively driving, which is probably
It's
not the best thing to do safety wise, but
no.
we all do it.
Yeah, it's a normal occurrence. There is no really, like, everyone is doing it. Everyone. You can't help it. You're in overload. And I know I've said
Mm.
it before, and we'll get to the point where you'll know exactly the keywords we are
Earmark
saying.
that word, ladies and gentlemen.
Overload.
Overload.
Overload. It's funny. Whenever somebody says overload to me, I think Dirty Dancing. I don't know about anybody else. I don't know why. Um, Childhood known. But so what about the people that are, can you think of any type of person that can't be hypnotized, that has a hard time with it, that, you know, they have, we all know that they can be. I'm saying, like, they have this known in their head where they think they can't be hypnotized. Is there a
Absolutely. It
specific
just
type?
recently happened and we talked about it offline. So when, we don't just
Mhm.
talk on when we shoot the episodes, right? I think we talk every day. We talk more now than I don't know. We used to talk a lot,
We
but
we
we're
talk a lot.
talking almost every day. But I had a new client that came to me for smoking, lots of extraneous other issues and diagnoses, and seeing a psychologist and psychiatrist, and I mean,
Mm,
but knew had heard that hypnosis works really well with smoking. It does, super successful. But he was worried that because he has ADD or
mhm.
ADHD, like he was worried that he wouldn't be able to focus. Because when I was explaining it to him and said the word deep, relaxed state of focus, he went, "Oh, I struggle focusing." And then my dear
Yeah,
friend Tina, like later, and by the way, when we talk to each other, we don't name names. We just give general conversations with each other. It's, client, practitioner.
everything
So
is.
she reminded me, she's like, "How long did you talk to him?" "Oh, at least an hour, hour and a half, maybe." She's like, "Yeah, he's probably was pretty focused during that conversation, wasn't he?" Like, yeah, he sure was. And you know that then when we had the next session and I reminded of them of that, well, first of all, he had a great experience in the first session. So that
Of course.
myth was debunked right out of the gates. But, when you consciously think something, there's a little bit of weight that carries, right? Um,
Mhm.
and he was like, "Yeah, huh, you're right." And it was a non-issue. It just didn't exist. So that's
Yeah.
the closest I've come to anyone ever kind of putting up the wall saying, "I don't know, man. you know, I have had other people that are on the other spectrum of it. I want to hear about you though. Tell me about what's your experience with, oh, I don't think you can hypnotize me, like the challenge or something. Like, what's that?
It is, they always see it as a challenge, and it's always, based in that fear. But I have heard from people that have ADD or ADHD that they can't just calm down.
Mm,
That's their thing. That's what I hear the most. And it's a little bit longer process, but I never have any issues. Actually, I hear, wow, that was the first time I've actually sat still, which is fascinating.
yeah.
And or they can't remember the last time they were that calm, or they didn't feel like they had to fidget or move. And I've noticed that with some of the clients that I've worked with, there is this interesting release that happens with people that have ADD or ADHD, where they tear. It's almost like a release of tension, and they just tear. And afterwards, more times than not, they very adamantly disclaimed that they were not crying. It was just they were so relaxed. um, and my thought is, well, that's great. I'm glad you were finally that relaxed.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear. But there is always that weird known that people have in um, that they've learned throughout their life that, oh, they can't sit still. Like, I mean, how many times do people that have ADD or ADHD say, my mother always told me I couldn't sit still. I mean, how many times do you have to hear something before it becomes your known? So, and that's what I hear a lot of, like, oh, well, my mother said, or my father has always told me, or my mom always told me this, my teachers told me that. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's time to get rid of those extra voices.
Yeah.
See if we can just take a nice rest here. But they also seem to um, have the response of delayed success. Like three days later, I'll get the text message. Oh my God, I just remembered something. Or, oh my God, this happened. And they're so thrilled. Or they'll say, I didn't know it then, but now I know. That's my favorite one. Is I didn't know I could actually do that.
Mm,
That's my favorite,
yeah.
but I think that answered your question, didn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of.
I know we're going to talk about this another time when we get a little bit deeper into the kind of you know, does it work? Um, and talking about like in a general way some of the successes we've had. But I'm just gonna put a pin in that and just invite people to stick around. Um, you said something that made me think about the so we're talking about this idea of being direct or indirect. We talked about this in prior episodes, right? And there's this other, and you brought it up. I don't know if people caught it, but there's this other term for people that are kind of right dead in the center, 50-50. And the reason this is coming up for me is because we're talking about people that are just generally walking around in hypnosis all the time, not just when they're driving, not just when they're in the movies or watching TV or just when they're scrolling, right? But they're just kind of in and out of it all the time, uh, where I would actually dehypnotize people before.
No.
I know. What? Hold on.
What
Wait, I've
do
hired
you
you
mean?
to hypnotize me and you're gonna dehypnotize me?
Uh-huh.
What's the deal with that, Tina?
Uh, you tell me. I mean, I can't believe you dehypnotize people. Really?
Me neither. Until I did, and then it was
Why are
like,
you doing that with them?
because in order to get someone to be able to slide into that kind of deep relaxed state, they gotta kind of get a handle on things, right? And when you're just overwhelmed and in that hypnotic state all the time, there's really no room for what's next, right?
Right.
Okay, you want to improve your self-confidence, but you're trapped in this loop. So by dehypnotizing someone, it allows you to get them kind of back to a neutral state where they're
Hmm.
receptive to new thoughts,
Hmm.
ideas, and associations, to the thing that they want, right? The goal-oriented topic that we're working on in those moments.
And how many people do you feel like you have to do that to
Not many.
in this? Really?
Yeah. Well,
Huh.
so now I know you're like, what? So, back to the law of attraction. So I was thinking about this because we're both sides of the suggestibility score, right? So I'm very
Uh-huh.
direct, you're indirect. Neither one of us is 100% nor 50-50, but close, right? And I attract people that tend to lean towards the direct approach. So I'm
Uh-huh.
attracting clients that prefer that. I don't
Hmm.
advertise it. I don't say, "Hey, if you learn
Hey,
directly, I'm your guy," right? But it's just funny how that works out, right? When
yes,
I do the
absolutely.
suggestibility test and I'm like, "Ooh, one of my people."
Well, I tend to find I find more emos than I do or inferential people. But I do have some of direct people. Um, but do you find that you have to dehypnotize a lot of people for any specific reason?
I feel like you're fishing for the answer that you want to give. So I'm gonna
Nope.
yeah,
I
no,
have
I've
more of a
said what I'm gonna
question.
say about this. You
I have a
I
deeper
want you to go
question.
ahead and cover it because you
Okay,
have
so
a very
the
specific idea you want to share.
no
I
no
want to
no no
hear
no
it.
I'm no no I was thinking that if somebody was spending a lot of time in an overloaded situation or overwhelmed situation, like, high
Everybody, you
anxiety,
mean?
high stress.
Seems like lately.
I'm working on it here. you know, um, if you're in a situation like, a pandemic, and you might have a lot of angst or anxiety or fears, and this is a really overloaded thing because now you're sitting at home and always on your computer, always scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Would you find that more people are in that state where you'd have to dehypnotize them? I would say that.
I like how you wrap it into a question. Yeah, so I will say that like COVID, we're going through another period of time where people are generally overloaded and a little nervous and scared. The RNC and the DNC just concluded. So I, I think I
There's a
said it to
lot
you.
going on.
I think I said it to you offline, but like, I feel like we're the disjointed states of America. And I'm hoping for a miracle that we're going to get united again. But
Yeah,
right now, more than ever, people are stressed out again, worried
right,
about their
right. So that,
futures, regardless of which side of the aisle you stand, right?
yeah, that's relevant at this point. We're talking about, just, you know, survival and how you feel. And so because there's this all this going on, and people are, of course, getting their information from social media, from their computers, watching television, watching the news for hours, just like in the pandemic. Do you feel like that is in some way hypnotizing people?
Absolutely contributing to their overload and their being in and out of hypnosis all day for sure. 100%.
All day, really?
All day. Absolutely. You might get some focused work done occasionally when you're zeroed in on your computer and you're not like, I mean, I've seen people that work and they have like a news channel on the internet while they're doing their work. And I'm just like, why would you do that to yourself?
So what's happening there? What do you think is happening?
I think it's back to, the fear of the unknown. And there's this security blanket in media, which uh, I don't know if we should be that controversial and talk about our opinions about that, but
No,
you
no,
know,
no. We're talking about what's happening with their minds, um, from taking in all this information. That's
yeah.
what we're
So
talking
you
about,
keep
right?
saying the word, it's overload, right? So think about, you've heard the term, your cup runneth over. Think about
Yeah,
this. Visualize or imagine, picture, if you will, a cup. Hold the cup up for show and tell, Tina. Go ahead.
it's a pretty little
Right. And
cup
so
right
that
there. Yeah.
cup fits probably 9, maybe 10 ounces of liquid, right? So if we,
Hmm.
okay, we've got it. I want to see your face.
This is just the funny stuff we
Anyway,
end up
like,
doing.
and depending on what's going on in any given day, you've got a certain number of message units we call like informational bits of information that can go into the cup.
Mm,
When the cup gets full, that's it. And another analogy would be like, that's it. I'm at the end of my rope. I got no rope left. The cup is
right,
full, right? And
right.
that's typically when things go awry. Is because now our inability to kind of manage our thoughts and feelings slips away, and the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, kicks in, and we're just reacting.
Oh, so we're just reacting all the time if
No,
we're
no.
in that state.
If the cup is runneth over,
Yeah.
odds are not in your favor that you're able to respond. You're typically reacting and going from whatever is known to you as the way when this happens, this is how I respond.
So we've had this conversation many times when, people are overloaded. I'm going to say it again, overloaded, and they are reactive, and they are literally walking around in hypnosis. Yeah.
Wait,
So,
walking
I mean,
around and driving?
who knew? Multi-talented.
Yeah.
Look at this. Yes. People are walking around, driving around, walking through life in every shape and form of whatever you do. You're in states of hypnosis because of the overload that we are experiencing from information, from media, from life itself, the demands, the anxiety. I think that's what we're both trying to say, um, directly and indirectly.
Yeah. So this kind of ducktails over to like, what's your experience with how people feel during that
Mm-hmm.
experience?
When they're overloaded,
Uh-huh.
or
When they're
yeah,
walking around in
yeah, well,
hypnosis, because they don't know. I mean, maybe
right,
somebody that just listened to us talk about this went, holy shit, that's me.
yeah,
Now what do I
yeah,
do? Right.
well,
Well,
right.
I was just wondering what your thoughts are on like how what does that feeling feel like, so that maybe someone that's experiencing it can kind of relate to what we're saying.
Well, the way I've always experienced it, and I'll just give you my personal thing. It's almost as if you kind of got that glazed over look, or that glazed over feeling. Um, if you've ever experienced low blood sugar, that might be one of the ways you might feel it. I mean, glucose does play a little bit of a role here. If your protein and stuff is kind of off, you're going to drop in even quicker. Um, so, I mean, if you've had those feelings where it's just kind of slightly off, you're glazed over, should be even short-tempered, I've noticed, irritable, I've noticed from people. These are things that people have said to me. I know that it's too much. I needed to get away and just listen to my audios or whatever. Um, but that's usually what is said in those examples. I think are pretty accurate. What do you think, Don? Which
Um,
ones you got?
I was thinking about me and sharing something personal with our audience, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
uh, I am not without my own overload,
Neither.
right? None of us
Yes,
are.
yes,
And I was
absolutely.
thinking about Tina and I were talking about just kind of what's going on before we started recording this episode, and so this is Saturday. We're recording this on Saturday. And so like I go pretty hard and fast Monday through Friday, like a lot of hours, a lot of multitasking, a lot of hopping around in between different topics. And it's a good thing, right? To have multiple irons in the fire. And
Hmm.
then my daughter, we packed her up and moved her out of her apartment because she's going to study abroad for her first quarter of her senior year. So lots of emotional message units coming at me, right? And so the cup was pretty full, and I slept great, and I woke up today and I just kind of felt out of sorts. And
Mm,
so I've
yeah.
learned to mindfully pause when I'm aware, right? Because I'm watching, I'm on the lookout for
Mm,
my own mental health. And so I just kind of was gentle with myself today and didn't do anything big, didn't make any big decisions, didn't, you know, watched a program for my mental health that was through the school that we studied at. And it's just very interesting that Saturday is almost like a come down day for me,
yeah.
where it's like that big
Mm,
breath. Um,
mm,
and so for me, being aware of it and then seeking the guidance, help, and support from my circle is super important, right? My own hypnotherapist, my own coaches, my own best
right.
friends, my people, right? My
Right.
tribe. And I feel pretty blessed that there's this kind of corral of people everywhere,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. We tried.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do when it's that? I mean, I know you reach out, you do all those things, but is there something that is there something that could jar you out of being in that state?
I don't necessarily want to be jarred.
Okay.
I've learned over lots of years of reflection and work and 12-step programs and self-help programs and meditative program. Like you know, I think I said it in one of our episodes earlier, like, Vision Quest and sweat lodges
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like the whole deal. Like, and I've learned through all of it, first and foremost, when I'm aware of what's happening for me, I'm pausing
Hmm.
and I'm getting into my body. One of the amazing instructors at HMI has a book called Heart Medicine that I'm reading, and it's all about these painful patterns that we have that get triggered. And then she gives you great step-by-step instructions on how to deal with it. And it's not so
Hmm.
much about going to your tribe or reaching out to someone out, but going in, right?
Hmm.
So I've learned to go within and tap into my body and see what am I feeling, what's going on, what is it, and if it's not clear, I do my best not to do anything, right? Because I don't want to bring that out to the world, so I just kind of sit with it. And
Right.
Saturdays is sometimes just a sitting day where I'm just kind of with myself until generally I'll potentially like look at some of the affirmations that I've written before that I use. Like I'll work on my own reframing of my own thoughts
Hmm.
if it gets so
Hmm.
severe, but it doesn't really get severe anymore.
Okay.
That
Do
has,
you think that well, not just you, but what about your clients and um what advice do you give them for being in that overloaded state of walking around in hypnosis that we all seem to fall into? What's
yeah.
your advice
So
to them?
great question. I've been talking a lot. I'd like to hear your point of view on this, please.
um, well, without giving away all my secrets, um, so the
Give them
idea
up.
then, Give them up. Well, it's usually 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open, wide
I mean,
awake.
hire her. Yeah.
uh, it's usually the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open, wide awake, because for some reason it might just be us that we're, accustomed to that statement. But once I've worked with somebody, um, first of all, they have to do the work. They have to work on mitigating what they're taking in, what they're surrounding themselves with. Um, they have their homework to do. They're not going to put themselves in situations like they're learning to do these things. They're learning to use their tools. But every once in a while, we will find ourselves overloaded from, maybe sitting around staring at that wonderful little thing we all carry around with ourselves and kind of scroll forever. And when we get in those stuck places, the idea that I tell my clients, that I do myself, is that I have to get up and I have to move around. I have
Yeah.
to disconnect. I have to get up, I have to move, I have to shake it off. I don't care if you're going to jump up and down, you're going to, play dance party USA. I don't care. Just move around, run around the block, because I think we get in this state and we stay there. And I've noticed it a lot with my clients, and it's almost becomes a habit, just like the scrolling habit that we have. Um, so for me and my clients, I always give them the anchor to breathe, to assess what's going on, get up and move around, and always count yourself back out of that craziness. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eyes open, wide awake. Come on, pay attention. We're here, present. Let's go. And change. You got to change and eat something, because you got to watch what you're eating. Your glucose level will play a part in being in that state. So that is what I do. And that's what
Move
I
your body, change
always,
your mind. Yeah. That
pretty much
sounds
feel
simple
good, do
enough,
good.
right?
Right. It's true though. I mean, it's very, very true, especially in those situations. Like, think about it. If you would use the analogy of the driving the car, and we're in hypnosis, and then we get out, we start walking around, and all of a sudden we're not in that state anymore. It's because we've changed positions. We've moved. We've walked into another room. We're more coherent. Food, water, all those things count. This is not just, one thing. You got to eat right, you got to move right, you got to think right. Like, it's all part of the gig around here. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Um, to put it in terms that I like to talk about with clients is that, we're trying to get out of the fight or flight, which is our sympathetic nervous system going into that overload, right? So there's the medical term for it, and then get into the parasympathetic, which is,
Mm-hmm.
what with whatever tools that you're provided, a breathing technique, whatever, visualizing, imagining, whatever, to halt, kind of stop that internal experience that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, are we saying that hypnosis, now that we know that it kind of, it, you know, who needs it, what it is, and it's safe, can it be used with other types of therapy? What do you think, Don?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we talked about it. At least half of my sessions are doing what we're doing. We're talking, right? Um, it's talk therapy. So it could be, a version of CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. It could be, heart centered. It could be whatever speaks to you as a hypnotherapist, as your modality, to facilitate the uncovering. So I have a lot of years asking questions in my profession before becoming a hypnotherapist, and
Mm-hmm.
that serves me very well, because I am able to get down to the heart of the matter of the client's real desires for change, what they really want to achieve,
Mm-hmm.
and then we go from there.
Funny question. It just made me think. How do you feel about when you are sitting in front of a hypnotherapist or therapist of any kind and there's silence? How do you feel about that?
People are generally uncomfortable with silence. Not all people, but those of us that are talkers, we'll probably speak up and fill the dead air because we're uncomfortable in it. I've learned to pause through my life, but I think that people get generally uncomfortable when there's silence, right?
That's that's interesting. Well, maybe it's interesting. I've had um, some therapists say that they just sit and wait. They just sit and wait for the person to talk. They walk in, they sit down, and they just wait for them to talk. And for me, I would try and fill the space too, even though I would pause first. Where some people would just jump in and want to talk. Okay, I'll go with you. I'll pause a little bit, but I found it fascinating that that's how they start all their sessions. They sit and wait. They do not speak first. I don't know how you would feel about that. I mean,
I mean, I've seen traditional therapists in my life. I don't remember the big dead pause that you're inferring, but I can. Are you asking me like what I think about that, or like what I do with sessions? What are
I'm
you
asking
getting?
what you think about it.
What do I
Like,
think
how
about
do
it?
you
I
how do you
think it's a
feel about that?
technique that they're taught, and you know,
Yeah.
um, I think it's can be effective. Sure, like
Mhm. I don't know. That's just what came to my mind, and I thought maybe you would, being that you are such the talker with all the questions and everything. How, I mean, knowing how you would see that, because some people would be okay with that. Some people would sit in silence with that person. That might be just what they needed.
Yeah, I mean, we're really kind of getting over into the topic of intuition, which we should talk about in our next episode. So
Absolutely.
put an earmark on that because I think we had one of
Absolutely.
our followers ask us to talk about intuition,
Absolutely.
Katya, right? So we'll get to that,
Yes.
Katya, I promise. But um, what's coming up for me is, and I can only speak through my personal lens of me as a hypnotherapist and as a client of therapy and hypnotherapy, is that I'm having a consultation with someone that doesn't include hypnosis. It's just a 10, 15, 20-minute conversation around why they're seeking my help, what specifically they'd like to work on. And I trust my intuition there and I don't cut people off and just say, no, no, no. What do I need to know? I don't hammer them with. So I
Yeah.
tend to have the word is rapport built with people that there's almost an expectation that that will continue into the session because there's this comfort thing that offers. But I've
Mhm.
also learned, I'm literally with you. I've got my notebook and my pen, and I've learned to listen, effectively listen. Being an
Mhm.
effective communicator, a big part of that is listening,
Mhm.
because if we're
Absolutely.
not listening, we're going to miss it.
Mhm.
Right?
That's
Because
the good stuff.
if you're lucky enough to just be quiet and let someone talk, to your point,
Mhm.
I'll answer your question directly. I'm not crazy about opening a session by not saying anything. It's just not what I would do ever.
I, it blew my mind also, but I thought, oh, and then I started thinking about some of my clients where I've just kind of sat. I didn't open the session that way, but there are moments where they're looking for the words. They need that moment, so I just wait. So I mean, I think there's a balance. I don't know that I would open a session that way, but I definitely reserve the right to be quiet and just listen and wait for them to lead to where they want to go that day. But before we can even go down those roads with the intuition and everything else, how does it actually work? Hmm, Don,
What is
the whole
it?
hip, it is the hypnosis part. How does
How does
it
it work? I think that's
happen?
another episode, Tina. I
Is
think
it?
we're currently at 45 minutes. I'm thinking we're going to have to break this off into another episode. Everybody just got
Okay,
home and they're wondering if we're going to wrap up in 45.
maybe.
Yeah,
So
maybe not.
they'll just have to stay tuned.
Yeah. So thank you. I feel like I got interviewed today. You're on it today. Wow. You were definitely on it. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hopefully you found it educational, entertaining, and had a little laugh with us. We'd ask you to
Always.
remember to like, follow, and subscribe, and feel free to share with anyone that might benefit from listening to our subconscious speaks. Because the question really is are you listening?
Are you listening?
Can you hear me? All right, I'll see you next
Absolutely.
session.